like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair.
And we're
Yeah, we
live,
are. And we're live. It's crazy how we got
just
live.
like that. Good morning, people. And we know we're late, but we know you don't care.
I'm pretty sure we set a new record for late today. I don't
Mm,
know that we've ever been 15 minutes late for our own show.
well, I,
16 minutes.
I think that morning with Mark where we kept having, remember we couldn't, I don't remember what the problem was that
That's
morning.
different though. We had technical difficulties, so we kind of start, stop because of the difficulties. But I mean,
Just
this is 16 minutes late, flat out late, late.
flat out, late.
As,
I did wake
as
up at quarter till. I don't know about you.
well, you woke up late today, and I have a habit of procrastinating all the things I need to do to set up until the final 10 minutes when I'm supposed to be online with you so I can stumble around the house going, oh shit. It helps me calm for the show.
I spoke to my daughter yesterday. I hadn't talked to her in a month, and it's
Oh,
funny because we were talking about French truck coffee because she loves French truck coffee. They have it in Memphis. I think it actually started up there. But so I was telling her, Chris, our guest on Wednesdays, brother-in-law, is actually one of the owners. See, look, they don't care.
good morning, Lorelai.
And said that they. Anyway, I told her she was like, "Oh my God, they're one of the owners," and we were talking about the coffee. And I said, "So which one's your favorite?" She goes, "I like the chicory." She goes, "Like you heard of the chicory?" And I'm like, "You like chicory?" And she goes, "Yeah. Oh, I love the chicory. It's my favorite." And so I told her the story about what chicory was and why it was.
Nice.
It's kind of fun. It's like, and
You educated the young.
I
That's
did, but I did
on the
think it was.
history.
I did think it was funny. I said, "See, that's your street roots there. The fact you like the chicory the best. It's good to show
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
street person."
I was watching, do you remember a show called Monk?
Yes, I
Tony
love that guy.
Shalhoub. It was a great fun
Shalhoub, right?
show.
Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah, Shalhoub, I think. But anyway, Allison hadn't seen it, so we were watching a couple episodes last night, and there's a scene where a guy has died, and he's at the funeral in the balcony, and he drops his keychain into the open casket, and it's a keychain that was a gift from his wife who was murdered, and so he's obsessive compulsive, and he can't let go of the fact that it's a keychain, and his assistant keeps saying we can replace the keys, just don't. But he fishes out some dental floss, which he always carries with him because he's OCD and he always has to floss, and a paperclip, and he makes a string to try and get the keys. And of course, it creates an entire sensation. He hooks the cufflink of the guy's arm, and when the old man speaking for him says, "We salute you," that guy goes up. But anyway, I was reminded of back in the late '90s when Hootie and the Blowfish were really popular. I was living in the French Quarter on Decatur Street with my second ex, and we lived in a fourth floor apartment walk up with dormer windows. We had no balcony, but if you walked out of the windows, which we weren't supposed to do, onto the rooftop, we could hang on the rooftop and smoke a little weed. So we were up there, and Hootie was in town, and uh, Darius's assistant Ford McCabe was coming over along with their sound man Billy Hewlins, two great friends of mine, two guys that have come down from Mardi Gras and costumed with me and stuff. Really great guys. And Billy's sober now for a long time, so this is an old story. But we we were back then in the '90s, in Louisiana. I had just started smoking weed, and I could get Mexican brickweed. It was the worst tasting stuff. It barely got you high. Sometimes even gave you a headache. It's terrible. And so we had just come from the West, and we had saved one kind bud joint, from California, and we're like, we're going to share this with the boys when they get here, because they always take care of us. And so we're waiting for them, and I got the joint sitting on the roof of the apartment building on the little ledge there, and we're smoking the shit weed and just talking, kind of get distracted. A little wind blows, and it blows off the roof onto the balcony below, which is an older gentleman who's lived there a long time. Never comes out. He's never talked to me. Never even has said hello. And it's just on his balcony now, a whole floor below me. We're like, wow, this is a bummer, man. And so right at that moment, Billy and Ford show up and they come upstairs and I'm all apologetic. I'm like, man, I really want to take care of you guys like y'all do me. And I had this joint saved, but look, there it is down there. It's a whole floor below. And Billy looks down, he grabs his chair and he's a really funny guy. He goes, what we need here is a lot of chewing gum and a long rope type thing. And so at the time, I was chewing Bubblicious on stage with Cowboy Mouth. So I broke out a pack of Bubblicious, and me and Ford and my ex and Billy all started chewing. And then we still had phones in the 90s, actual phones that were plugged into the walls. And I had one with a long enough cord that I could walk around the apartment because I like to walk while I talked. So we took the phone cord and we chewed a wad of gum about this big and we stuck it around the phone cord. And then I lowered it very gently down to the balcony. All the while, Billy was singing the theme from Mission Impossible. Dun, 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 dun. And it took us 2 attempts because the first attempt I was halfway up and I caught a shutter. It knocked it off. And so we had to go over again, Dun, 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 dun. But we wind up getting it all the way up to the top, which is the insane thing you do when you're desperate enough to want to smoke
Wow, that's impressive actually.
in the 90s. It was the 90s, man. Shit was crazy.
Because what would have happened to me was I would have finally gotten the ball of gum down there, had a good chance of doing this, and the wind would have picked up again and went down another floor. So
Well, that was my 90s escapade. Last night I stayed up late, watching a movie and drinking warm milk with honey in it. So,
nice. What movie?
what movie did I watch last night? Well, I finished the. Luis and I had a thing. We're going to have to wait on Friday to talk about it. But I watched the final Star Wars movie, and I thought it was the best since the first three.
Really?
And Luis told me I was in a minority, and I'm ready to go toe to toe with him on this. And then I tried WandaVision, but man, it hasn't grabbed me yet because it's not a superhero show. It's like a Saturday Night Live sitcom with superheroes in it.
Right.
So that's a tough one. I did go right into The Mandalorian, and I'm only 1 episode in, but so far it's like a Clint Eastwood spaghetti western.
That's exactly what Johnny
Even
Favs is
using Clint
doing.
Eastwood's voice,
Yeah.
and I'm really hoping that if he takes the helmet off, it's Clint Eastwood's son playing the part.
It's Pedro Pascal, but
Too bad. They should have gotten Clint Eastwood's son. If they're going to rip Clint off, they should have gave a little back.
yeah, right. Um, yeah, no, the Mandalorian story. That's totally what it is, and it's all Johnny
It's
Favs.
fun.
But yeah, second season actually gets better than the first. The first season was fun. Second season actually got a little better.
Hell of a lot more fun than WandaVision, for God's sakes.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. I think Wanda was kind of style over substance, you know? Um,
It was high concept for sure, as I like
right,
to say when I.
right. They were going for something and my daughter liked it. She thought it was
Once again, quoting John Boutte when asked about the movie Brokeback Mountain, not enough car chases for me.
yeah, agreed. Agreed. And just the way that it moved through all the different time things. It's cute, right? It's a neat idea, but once again, it's all this one idea.
Somebody said don't miss the behind the scenes series for The Mandalorian. That sounds like fun. I like behind the scenes
It
stuff.
actually is the first season of the behind the scenes for it. They go through all kinds of different things where they talk about the whole team. There's because they have 6 directors that basically do all the shows. Johnny writes them, and then there's basically these 6 directors. They all kind of sit around a table and talk about. He pulled them all together and they're like, you guys are my directors, and you're gonna get so many episodes. I think they all get 2 episodes per season, kind of thing, or something. Um, Good stuff. What's her
Yeah,
name's in it? Ron Howard's daughter is one of them. She's one of the ones that are in
really.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I love the nepotism in the film business. I want to see all the legacies continue.
right.
You know.
She's been in a few things, right? She's also a little movie star. She was in Jurassic World and whatnot,
Oh yeah, no, she was great in Jurassic World. I'm not kidding when I say that.
right?
Tom Hanks' son is a terrific actor.
Well, when they were talking about stories, they one of the stories, it really is kind of interesting. But she went around with her dad to all these places. She met George Lucas when she was 5 years old and was totally unimpressed because she was 5 years old, and
You
you know
know,
she's
I'm
just
like
sleeping.
that with I'm like that with all any family endeavor. whether it's in the film business or the Manning family, big fan of the Manning family.
Uh-huh.
You know, I love to see a family succeed. So, like when my brother George puts out a new book, or my niece Natasha gets new work displayed at Oshner with her photography, or my niece Adrian's husband is a wonderful artist. When I see a new painting of his, so I try and celebrate my family's art. My brother Johnny's TV show Queen Sugar that he's the art director of, and
Yeah, Queen
it's
Sugar looks kind of interesting, right? I mean, isn't it like sort of set in the 1850s kind of thing, or something? It's set in a different time period, right?
well, I don't want to answer
Oh, it's not
because
out yet.
the episode I saw was not.
Oh, okay.
I don't think, but then I only saw a brief shot of an episode. It was late at night, and Allison had to work in the morning. We're like, okay, this could be fun. Let's save this,
Gotcha.
when you're awake, kind of
Yeah.
thing. We hadn't gotten back to it yet, but we will. I mean, we're binging all kinds of crazy. We're binging Broadchurch now.
Oh, Broadchurch. I feel like I've heard of that.
Oh
Um,
man, if you haven't watched it, you might want to check it out.
there's so
It's the
much.
guy who played the bad guy in Jessica Jones, David Tennant.
Oh, really? Dave Tennant. Nice.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Uh,
And the Queen, the one who played the Queen from The Crown, is
oh,
the female detective.
no, Johnny just texted me. He said it's a contemporary show. It's nice you can get your answers just on, just when you get
Well,
texts.
it's nice that my brother Johnny tunes in.
Yes.
We do have to discuss. We had Ivan Bodley on, and I was hoping he would, play fair and just talk about his multifaceted career as a bass player in Broadway and in Hall of Fame rock bands, but he had to take a swipe at the not goods and had to threaten legal action. And I think that we're going to have to plan a series of shows, maybe Mondays, a brief, like, give each member a few minutes to say their piece on the subject, and we can finally put this not goods controversy to bed after 35 years.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that we can actually put it to bed. I think those guys they enjoy the conflict. Plus, they seem to have unlimited legal money. That's the thing. Either they've got
They seem to have unlimited ability to threaten legal action.
without
In the
hiring a lawyer.
35 years, no one has ever actually hired a lawyer. They have never been to court. They actually still hang out and drink together. And the term "my lawyer will be in touch with your lawyer" is pretty much how they end their hangouts together. So
So
it
no,
is a rock mock band, or a mock rock band, and a mockumentary about them called "This Is Absolutely Not Good."
yeah, we're gonna.
And
I
we
think
should
we need
have the
to.
members on.
We got to get the sales back up for the not good, so that they can have
Well,
get together.
I just think it's one of the great unheard rock bands in the history of rock and roll, and their story deserves to be told.
Wasn't that one of the puns? Like they were the best not rock band, not band.
Well, that was a great moment. Ivan was the DJ at WWL, and so they're all in their 20s. Like I said, most of them went on to be doctors, and Johnny's an art director, and so they were just doing this for a goof. And there's at one point where they say, "Well, this song we're about to play, it's a lot longer. We did this as a radio mix." And so Ivan, trying to participate in the fun, goes, "Oh, so this is good." And there's like a 2-second pause, and all five of them go, "Oh, no, no, it's not good. It's definitely not good." But
Definitely not
there
good.
there's a real punk enthusiasm and a primitive aspect to the early stuff that when I listen to it now, it's pretty fun. And then they did some crazy kind of songs. Kierkegaard in Denmark was sort of their Talking Heads kind of groove, where they're Kierkegaard in Denmark with Albert Camus. Think, think, think is all they do. It was stupid stuff.
I remember my.
And they each claim to be the founding member. They each claim to be the spiritual leader, and they each claim that every one of the other not goods was just a session man who worked for them.
Of course. That's just so American, so unbelievably typically American of them.
Yeah, it's a really fun little documentary, and the fact that they're all successful adult men pushing 60, if not in their 60s, and still will fall right back into this juvenile accusation of you stole my songs and I'm suing you and this album was
Suing
my
you.
album. It's awesome. It's as if they were a band. It's like watching, the Rolling Stones or the Beatles fight because the arguments are still fresh. Only these aren't real arguments. It's all imagined in their insane minds.
You ever hear somebody was mentioning telling you were talking about Rolling Stones and oh, I know what it was. We were talking about the Ted Templeman book. Not Ted Templeman. No. I'm sorry. The Jeff Emmerich, I guess. One of the guys who was one of the producers, engineers with the Stones, and they asked him, what was it like recording, and he goes, it reminds me a lot of what Charlie Watts said about being in the Stones. It was like, how did he put it? It was about 6 hours worth of playing and 70 years of waiting, kind of thing, because they're always waiting for Keith to show up so they could write a song or
No.
do whatever. So he's like,
I gotta say, speaking of the Stones, I'm not a giant Stones fan. I was always a Beatles guy. But I was in my car and WTIX was playing Ruby Tuesday. And I'd never really sort of listened to just the vocal quality of his singing.
uh-huh,
And he really sang that song very well. I think of Mick Jagger as a really sort of jagged, pretend blues singer with the fake accent and the whole deal.
uh-huh.
And this was really some lovely, tender singing on the verses and some really melodic, powerful singing on the choruses. I was quite impressed with young Mick.
Yes, yes. No, young Mick, man, there's a bunch of stuff on some of those early records that you just go, wow, I mean, and he was a good writer, he had a lot of interesting stuff to write about, and he didn't mind playing the heel. So,
No, he didn't mind playing the heel. Well, he was a heel. That's why he didn't mind playing it. He sort of reveled in being the heel.
yes, yes, because
As Chris, Keith Richards reveled in being the junkie. I just saw him just this year during the pandemic. There's an interview on 60 Minutes. It was like from right before the pandemic. And, Keith is all with his, cigarette still dangling. And, I'm 78 now, and I've had to give up drinking, as my doctor said. And of course, these things I have to go, and giving up all my vices, really. And the interviewer goes, well, of all the vices you've given up, which your one you miss the most? And without hesitation, he goes, heroin. On network news, with a
right,
big smile.
yes,
Heroin, definitely. Easy one.
that's an
Missing
easy
the
one, mate.
big.
Yeah, just not even.
That's Keith, man.
Oh
That's why
yeah,
we love him.
I know, and the funny, I love that it's true that funny joke about Keys will outlive us all. He'll be hanging out with the roaches after we're all gone, going, where'd everybody go? What's going on?
He'll be snorting the dead roaches and staying alive.
Right. Just alive, hanging out with hey, this is how we do it. This
Well,
is how we
I have
do
to say,
it.
they defied the odds, man. Like, it's not easy rock and roll is not an easy business to grow old in.
No.
And very few have done it uh, both gracefully and powerfully. You know, Bo Diddley was still a powerhouse, and early on, he would hire knuckleheads like us, just local bands, to back him up, give him $200, and he'd make all the money. But he quickly realized his daughters and grandchildren were better musicians than the bands he was hiring. So he then went on and wrote with the Bo Diddley band, gave his family jobs, and his shows were like monster. I don't care how old Bo was when you saw him, it was Bo Diddley, and he rocked the house. Same thing with Fats Domino, rocked the freaking house. When I saw him at the Irving Plaza in the late '80s when I was living in New York, bumping the piano across the stage with his belly and rocking it at the same time, man, he was show, and he was the real deal. And it's not easy, to do that. So hats off to, you know,
To
the
the
fellow we
yeah,
were just talking about,
yeah,
that guy.
that guy. Hats off to him.
Hats
Um,
off to him.
hey, is it raining by your place?
Yeah, I should have closed the door. Is it too
No,
loud?
no, I like it.
Oh, it's
I'm a big
nice. It's
fan.
beautiful.
Big
That's
fan of
why I
the.
have the door open because it's so nice to hear the rainfall.
I know, I'm down with you. I like the rain. I can't really hear the rain from in here, but I was sitting on the porch earlier
Yeah, you
for
got an awesome porch.
like a
I don't
half a
have a
minute.
good porch. I have a nice double door French door thing to my garden, so when it's not blowing in, I'll open the doors and listen to the rain.
I know we sat out there on that little table out there and had lunch and talked about this very show. I
The
remember.
garden has been completely redone since then because that was all post freeze. We were a mess.
No kidding. Yeah, it was still pretty, but yeah, it was after it was still had the winter.
Was that post freeze? I don't know. We've
I
been
think it
doing
must
this
have
a
been.
long time. Yeah.
It must have been because I don't know. I do remember that we had just done the oh, it was before we did the Wright brothers thing. So gosh, it was a long time ago. When did we do the Wright brothers thing? Was that in January, February? I don't even remember.
October is when we filmed it.
Right.
I don't think we got around to showing it until January.
Yeah.
And then I just heard from Andre and Jim. I think they're going to put it on YouTube.
It's about time. We
Not the carport chat part, but the concert
just the
itself.
concert stuff. Um
Yeah.
the thing was, I told them they should probably do the cut, even do them as single songs for you guys. That way people can just go find songs and have performances, kind of
You
the way
know,
we did.
whatever works. It was heartfelt. We were a little. I remember that it was the first time any of us had been around people since the pandemic began. And though we were outdoors at a safe distance, there was a social awkwardness there for Jim and Mikey, you, that normally wouldn't be there, and a social awkwardness for Alex and I that would normally be there that was intensified. And like we were so not used to seeing each other or even talking to other people that we literally played the first song and sort of when we were finished, we just kind of nobody even looked at each other or said good job. And you were like, okay, let's do the next one. And we're like, yeah, what's the next one? Yeah, okay, whatever. And then we did good performances, as I recall, but there was not much interaction. Maybe the occasional smile, maybe the occasional joke, but we were so unused to
It felt like a studio
social.
session more than a live performance. Like it was kind
Well,
of
you
like
know, I
we're
just saw the wonderful piano player Josh Paxton posted yesterday on Facebook that it seems to me pre-pandemic playing back-to-back gigs didn't leave me feeling like I'd just gotten run over by a truck. But I guess that's part of the new normal. But I mean, that's sort of like, yeah, man, we're not used to it. Josh was working bang, bang, banging it out and thriving on the adrenaline and had the juice going and he was in shape. And now to go out and play back-to-back gigs, which you haven't done in a year and a half, is not as easy as it was a year and a half ago. And I think that holds true for a lot of folks. I mean, even in regular walks of life, just like seeing people, like, do we hug? That's always the first question these days. Are you vaxxed? Do we hug?
oh, we
You
vaxxed.
know,
Yeah, that's kind of the
oh, we vaxxed is first, clearly
right.
first. Are
You
we
got your
vaxxed?
vaccination?
Because you're,
Yeah, well then
you're
we can hug.
kind of like so many of my friends are vaxxed. You're already moving in for the hug when you're asking the question, are you vaxxed? And occasionally you get, no, we're not. Oh, you're not.
Yes.
Let's
Well, I don't want
great to
to.
see.
Right. I don't want
Really
to give you
good to see.
something
I'm going to keep backing up while I say, really great to see you.
because I don't want to get you sick. Because you're not worried about getting sick from
Because
them, right?
you can carry it.
Right.
You may not get sick, but you can still be a carrier.
Apparently,
So,
over the weekend we found a whole bunch of people. Right. I mean, Bill Maher was one of them. Right. Who actually
right, people that have
vaccinated.
been vaccinated that still got COVID to a
Um,
lesser degree. It'll keep you from getting gravely ill, but you can still carry it. You can still have it.
and give it to
And for
people.
me, my wife, her family has grandkids in it now, and my brother has little kids. Not everybody is available is the right age for vaccinations and all that kind of stuff. So I try to be careful. And plus, to be perfectly honest, I mean, as Samuel Beckett once wrote in Waiting for Godot, people are bloody ignorant apes. And if you think about it, you and I have traveled more than the average bear. You know what I'm saying? Like you and I have been in bands, you've traveled for sound gigs, we've been on airplanes. How many times in the 25 years you've been doing this have you gotten home from an airplane flight and been sick the next day?
Oh, right.
We should have been wearing masks for years. You were getting put into a giant plastic petri dish with humans who have not been as careful as you are about where they've been, who they've been with, and how they went about it.
Right.
So a mask.
I'm
And to
sure,
be
like
honest,
you, the times that I've gotten
a little
sickest in
wipe
my
down on the
life.
seat.
Yeah, the times I got sickest in my life were usually I was on the road, right? So because you'd flown in somewhere, and then you're like 3 days in, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, I think I'm gonna die. I'm
Always
gonna.
after a plane flight, especially when it was back in the 90s and Cowboy Mouth was really banging it. We were flying every day to gigs. The chances of getting sick were intensely insane. And yet we laughed at Michael Jackson for wearing a mask. Yeah, I'm calling him a visionary, and I want it to be clear it's about the mask and it's about the glove, not about the whole children thing.
No,
I'm
that
not
was
not visionary there,
no.
or about having a pet monkey. Because to be honest, I mean, I have a hard enough time with dogs. I got bit on the
Right.
face by a dog when I was a little boy, and I scared dogs most of my life. A monkey has got big teeth. And, let's just say you've had the fucker for like 5 years. He's your best buddy. 8 years, 10 years even. He's an old monkey. He's the happiest monkey anybody's ever seen. But he's still from the wild. He's a wild animal. And maybe your wife, or your son, whoever's taking care of your monkey, missed a feeding. And you're just cuddling with your monkey, and he's making monkey faces at you, monkey. And you're thinking, oh, my monkey, I've had so many. He's my pet monkey. I love my monkey. And he's thinking, that motherfucker never fed me, and that cheek is fat. He's got some hog job, just like that,
See,
man.
I always think of them as scheming because it's like, all right, this thing is it's got. We know it has a brain. It can put things together. They teach him
Right.
how to do all kinds of shit. They can read sign language and open locks and whatever. So I'm a little freaked out about monkeys sometimes. Just the
Yeah, I wouldn't.
idea
I couldn't have a pet monkey. I wouldn't. I would not only would I not want a pet monkey, I wouldn't want to visit someone who had a pet monkey because then they're going to want you to touch
touch.
my monkey.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't want to touch your monkey. I don't even like. When I was on the road with Cowboy Mouth, and then like the popular days, people would want you to hold their kids. Like they come
Oh,
up and they go, "Oh, this is my baby. I'd like you to hold that." I'd be like, "No, no, thanks. No, really, I really want to hold my baby." And I'd be like, "Have you seen me play the guitar?
right.
Seen what I do to the instrument that I make my living with? You
You don't
really
want
want
me
me to
holding your
hold
kid.
the human being that came out of your body? Trust me. I spill drinks. I drop things. I break things. I am a bull in a china shop at best.
At
I
best.
don't want to hold a child,
You could just.
and
Did
I
you
don't
ever
want.
do like the lawyers? The lawyers told me I can't carry babies anymore. I can't touch babies anymore. Like
I
that was
just
most
know because
lawyers.
I didn't want any trouble. I was honest. I was like, "Look, man, I drop guitars. I break shit. You don't want me to break your baby, so you just best hold on to it."
Right. That's your baby. I think it's probably best if you hold on to your baby. Yeah, I don't know if
I
I'd be offering my kid up to go, hey, you want to hold my baby? Just not me.
I never had a baby, so I don't know. I can't say. I kind of think that I would be the one that was saying, "Hey, would anybody take this thing for a little while so I could just."
You remember Allie? You think I could give Allie away to anybody? It's like, no. No, no, no. She'd be wrapped around my neck. I'd be like, can you take her, please? And she just, no, Dad, you're not letting me
Those
go.
are some of the most adorable moments in the session, man. I always love those sessions at your place in Miro. We'd be in the middle of some heavy thing or trying to work through a problem, and then Kimmy would come through the back door and she'd call out dinner. And then next thing you know, she's coming through with a plate for you. And if Herman was there, she was feeding Herman. Never fed me too often because I would never eat in the studio. And then you'd get your plate, and the first thing was Allie would come up between you and the plate, pop right there on your lap, start pressing buttons that you immediately had turned off for her to play with. And you were feeding her, and she was feeding you. And it was just a beautiful break from the music to watch you love your daughter and give her attention.
She
You know,
was
I never
cute.
had a father. I never had a father. So those moments were beautiful for me to watch. Same thing with when we did the song Part of Me,
Uh-huh.
when we recorded that for the Loose Parts record. And Peter Holtzapfel was producing. And at the time, he and Susan were still married. I just saw the Cowsills documentary last night and broke my heart all over again. And much mad love and respect for my sister Susan, who I just loved her spirit and her voice. I didn't really know all that much about the Cowsills because I was always trying to play my own thing. I knew a couple of their hit songs, but I wasn't like Gaga that she was in the Cowsills like a lot of my sisters were,
Right.
or most people I knew were. I was just alive, just in love with her voice. And her husband Russ is truly one of the funniest and most fun people alive. So it's great to see it again. But where was I? I went tangential on your ass.
Well, we were talking about the Cowsills and growing up when they were married. Pardon me,
No, it got
pardon
me.
me, pardon me.
Pardon me. And so, yeah, so I have my memory of that song is like Susan couldn't find a babysitter for Miranda, who was in the Castles, documentary at like 12 or something. But Miranda was just a little baby at the time.
Right.
And so she brought her into the studio, and Peter had everything set up, and he goes, "Do you want me to hold the baby while you sing?" And she goes, "No, I got this." And she had the baby right here in her shoulder. And the lyrics to the song are, "Part of you is always going to be a part of me." And that was the harmony she was singing. And she's rocking the baby, and she's singing it, looking right down at her baby. And my heart just melted, and I just thought, I don't care what happens with this song. That's my memory for the rest of my life of that song.
Yeah,
I
right.
saw real love. I saw real love. I saw what exactly that line meant.
There's some really neat songs. Let's Not Talk About Love on that record is really kind of a
That was a fun one because I really wanted to do a ballad thing with Susan, a duet. I love her voice so much, and she brings out the baritone in me because she's got such a beautiful, strong alto voice. And Cowboy Mouth was recording at the Egyptian Room, which was a Masonic temple that was in the 333 St. Charles building. I don't know if it's still there anymore, but it was preserved, and it was all these Masonic imagery and giant walls and beautiful religious artifacts. And we were recording there. And we had a day off from recording. I think the producer, Mike Wanchek, had gotten something in his eye the night before while he was relaxing, let's just say. Um, and he couldn't come in. He had to go get his eye rinsed out. And so we had the studio, and they said that you and I could record a track from my record,
That's
which
right.
was
That's right.
amazing.
We did it there at the
We were
Egyptian.
working in the Shroom Room, which was
Right.
like a one-room studio with
On
shag
Franklin, remember
carpeting.
you had to get inside? It was like you didn't even want to leave at night because you might get mugged going to your car.
Oh yeah,
It
on
was,
Franklin back in the day, and
yeah.
the shag carpeting had clearly been there since Sanford and Son was a hit show, and
Right.
it was just
Burnt
a dank,
orange.
nasty, funky experience. And so we had recorded most of it there. So the chance to do it in this beautiful Egyptian room was too much to pass up. So you had loaded up the 2-inch tape, and Susan had come in, and you'd set us up on stools so we could sing
That's
next
right.
to
Y'all
each
singing
other,
next to each other. I remember it now.
right
Yeah.
next to each other. And the song plays, and we're singing our little duet. And man, her voice just took my breath away. And the last notes were fading, and I opened my eyes and looked at her and smiled, and I said, "That was really wonderful." And she looked at me with the most sweetest smile in the world. She went, "That's really great. I'm glad you liked it. What the fuck were you doing listening to me?"
Right. I remember.
That was so perfect. It's like you're supposed to be tuned in on your singing, you stupid fuck. Don't you even know how to sing? Don't you know how to be present in the moment? She didn't say any of that, but
No.
that was clear message. And I think it's one of Susan's great gifts. I think it's one of John Boutet's great gifts. It's besides their technical prowess, besides the absolute lush gorgeousness of both of their voices. I don't know that I've ever seen two singers that are more present in the moment when they perform.
I think
They
Skeet has
are.
that too. I think Skeet has that same because he can follow you with harmonies. He's just so into the moment. Um,
He's such a power. You know, he's definitely a powerhouse, instinctive musical creature.
yeah,
He's pretty much a rarity.
he's a rarity too.
Incredible.
Yeah, he reminds me
But
of her
yeah,
just
so
with the,
I think the presence part.
yeah.
Well, funny thing though, I asked Susan one time about, do you have any tips about singing? And she just looked at me and smiled that sweet smile. And she said, "To be honest, Paul, singing's 90% confidence."
Yeah. But and for somebody like her, she'd been doing it for such a young age. She didn't have to go through that part of it where you learn like when you went to singing lessons and things like that, what you discovered was that it's not your instrument's not something you push out or anything like that, that it is a state of mind. I mean, it's more like you're talking to somebody across the street
Right, right.
than really kind
It's a
of
weird thing.
yeah.
It's
So
a
it
weird thing.
but she when you start at five and
No,
6 years old,
but
you know
she not only started at 5 and 6 years old, she was literally learning at the feet of masters.
right.
I mean, I've sung on stage with her and her brothers, and it sent a chill down my spine. And I knew that I had to sing at my best just to hang with these guys. We were doing the Rain in the Park and other things, and I happened to know Johnny's Harmony, and he wasn't there. So Susan invited me up and said, "Why don't you sing Johnny's Harmony?" And it was a thrill, and it's something I'll always love. But it literally sent an electrical chill up my spine. They were so perfect together.
I know.
They were so in sync. It's such a beautiful thing to witness when they sing together.
There's a thing like when you're doubling vocals and stuff like that, you always double your own vocal better because of, you make the same voice print. So, but members of the same family also do the same thing because there's a similar.
Right.
So whenever you have these family things like that, the harmonies they can create are just, you can't
And
get.
plus, they hear harmonies in a very lush way. You know, we're I am taught on Beatles harmonies, which were based on blues songs and country songs, and that's your basic block 3-part harmonies for the most part. The Beatles got more experimental as things went along, but you're still talking about harmonies based on the triad.
Right.
Whereas with House Hills, they're fleshing out sixths and you know, they're doing melodic shifts in the harmonies that are crossing each other. It's pretty amazing. You know, they're pretty wonderful, not just singers but arrangers, and they're and their chord progressions. The
Right.
chord progressions are not typical ever. They're these beautiful pop things that you think are going somewhere, and then they take this gorgeous left turn that allows harmonies to explode and make you just gaga, and then they come back to the hook, and you're just like, wow, that seemed easy.
I know. And it's funny is as good as Susan
Really
was,
not.
Barry was that good too. It's like
Oh, Barry was amazing.
it,
Barry
it
was,
it's like a lot of these bands like that. You don't have like two people that can really you've got the main one and then everybody else is singing harmonies. But I mean,
they had his song in the movie. Susan covered his song "River of Love" on one of her records, and it was
yep,
used in the movie. And I was really glad because Barry was such a fantastic songwriter, and he so overwhelmed the songwriter scene when he moved to New Orleans.
I know.
I remember Alex and the songwriters that I had admired to that point were just literally starstruck by his songs, by his presence, by his swagger. I'll never forget meeting him because I loved Susan instantly, and was a big Continental Drifters fan. So Barry had moved in to be part of the Drifters, and he came to town, and it was right around Halloween. So I went to a Halloween party that was in a loft above the Louisiana Music Factory. So it was just a big empty loft, and it was a Halloween party, and there's some sort of folding chairs scattered around, and I was sitting on the floor in one of those really low wooden backed high, folding chairs they had back then, just really sort of low on the floor. And I was only dating my second ex then, and I was kind of had a reputation for being a wild drunk, for getting crazy and maybe getting, a little too out of control. And Barry, as it turns out, had a similar reputation. He had just arrived in town. And I'll never know if he had heard about my reputation as being like the trouble guy, watch out for that guy. All I know is that he walked into the party. He had a long trench coat on, which he mostly wore, and a fedora. And he strode across the floor directly to me. And he looked down at me. He never said a word. He picked up the empty chair that was next to me, put it over his head, and he smashed it on the floor. And he just looked at me with a blank face. And I nodded at him, and he nodded at me, and he walked away to get a drink. I always felt like it was the passing of the torch. I just was like, you're crazier than me. Welcome to the.
It does
And
seem
he
like a
went, yeah.
pissing contest for
It was like passing the torch.
yeah.
I was dating my second ex by then. I knew I was not going to be a wild drunk forever, and he was a guy who was clearly as good or better at it than I had ever been. And I passed the torch, and he created legend in the city with his music, his personality, when you say about people, he was a larger than life personality. You can most certainly say that about Barry Castile.
I
You know,
remember
he
I was
he lit up a room.
I guess I was 19 or 20. I mean, I kind of came onto the scene like right as I got out of high school, um, playing a little bit, but also working with Keith Keller, who I think we just
Right.
recorded a record for Dash Rip Ride called Boys Live, and he was he wanted to go and record bands in New Orleans, so I was taking trips with him. We were running around, and one of the bands we went and saw was one of Barry's early bands, and I remember Jeff Beninado was playing with him, and I knew Jeff kind of.
And Jeff's a great bass player. Yeah.
And I think for some reason, remember the drummer for John Mahoney? Remember John
Yeah, I love John.
from $1,000 Car, right?
Right.
I felt like
Right.
it was John and maybe Jeff that were playing with him because the guy had a feel like John. John had that great, really loose, open feel.
Yeah.
And anyway, I just remember going, man, this guy's. But they were playing to nobody, and he was pissed off about it.
That's
It was one of
bad.
those things. I think we went to the. There was one on Annunciation that maybe Neptune. I don't know. It was a little one of those little ones underneath the bridge at the time. This is back in the '90s, so one of the ones that was at right down there.
I know the name of it, right? I can't think of it right now.
But you know what I'm talking about?
But
Shitty little
yeah,
bar.
not the RC Bridge Lounge.
Was it RC Bridge? Maybe it
It might have
was.
been
Because Bridge Lounge makes
the
sense.
bridge.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you remember Shotgun Place, and I mean, there was just fucking nobody
Right.
there. So,
Uh,
they sounded good, but you know how it is. Places like that, if there's nobody there, everybody's loud. It's one of those things where, what do you say? 225 North Peters, the first Louisiana Music Factory location. We lived on the fifth floor. Those flats, they had glorious parties. So maybe that's what he's talking about.
maybe so.
Turn out great tunes. Oh, he says Mick isn't dead. He and Keith still turn out. You're right. Mick's
Yeah.
not dead. Sorry. Um, anyway, so we met with him after, and it was just one of those things. He was so I didn't get to see the side of him. He was never friendly, right? I mean, he was just a guy who was fucking great.
Well, he was always he used that sort of intimidating persona as a way to, like he set his defenses early,
Hmm.
because he really was quite sweet when you got around it. He could be very nice, but his interactions, because he obviously, if you see the documentary, he had a tough life, were to like warn you almost in the way he spoke to you that I'm going to be fucking trouble. And if you got intimidated or if you flared back, then it wasn't going to work for him.
Right.
But if you just were like, you smiled or you just went, whatever you got, man,
And
then
that's
he could just
that was
relax.
kind of the day. It was like, we went up to say hi. We'd been recording people for free, just kind of moving. And he was such an asshole I mean, I hate to speak poorly of the dead, but it was just Barry. Like you say, it was sort of his way. It was a defense mechanism for him.
Yeah,
I walked into a place, he's playing, there's nobody there, he's embarrassed. He's from the fucking Cowsills,
right,
so
right,
immediately he's like, it's a fucking kid. Who's this fucking kid? You know?
right. Yeah, well, that was just his way, but I think he really liked people, and I think he really loved the respect that he got in New Orleans from the musical community.
I
Um,
agree. I agree. And
it
we
was a
made friends
time,
later on. I recorded some of his
yeah,
records,
like
but it was
right,
just,
because he was, like I said, he could be very sweet when you got past it, but his first thing, maybe having I'm fresh off the documentary, but maybe his first thing was, "You're not gonna fucking hurt me, are you?
right,
If you are, I'll fucking kill you.
right.
I ain't getting hurt no more."
Yeah.
So it was like a warning shot. He would fire a warning shot over your
That's a
bow,
good
and
way to
however
put
you
it.
took it determined how the relationship would flow.
Right.
And for me, I just tipped my hat and said, "Great, it's yours, man. Take it."
Oh, I just laughed that day, and I was like, "Well, they were really good, but I guess he doesn't want to work with us." And so me and Keith, we left or whatever. It turned out, like you said, it was just a defense mechanism.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
weren't talking with him
And he
and
was
dealing with
brilliant.
him.
Once you worked with him, like his records, I regret that I don't have a Barry Cowsill record on vinyl with
And his
the songs he was
freaking
doing to us.
voice, like his voice.
And his voice.
Oh
Yeah,
my
incredible
God.
voice. Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
made me jealous on more than one occasion. He would make me mad because I like to
I
do
would
that
think
rock and roll thing too, and it's like
I think he did that to pretty much every rock songwriter in town.
just made him
I
mad.
seriously, I think if you asked me or Carlo or Alex, the guys who wrote rock around town back then, they'd say, Peter, they'd say, "Oh man, I wish I'd written this song of Barry's or that song of Barry's." He was a killer songwriter, man.
And like you said, a great singer, like next level singer. Just
Yeah. Well, hey, Mikey, we
yeah,
are towards the end of the show.
I know. Look at that.
Did you get my message about playing that certain song on the
I
outro?
did, but I got it late. Can we do it on Wednesday?
No, that's okay. You don't have to play it. I'm just going to. I just want to talk about this because I went to a book signing on Saturday,
Uh huh.
and we had just had Chris Joseph on Wednesday, and it was a
Right.
very different show for us. We mostly try to be knuckleheads and make each other laugh and share a little information about music. But Chris had written a book about his journey from cancer to health, and it was a very beautiful journey, and it was an unorthodox one, an inspiring one. And it inspired me to open up about my vocal problems and hopefully having a treatment soon. And it inspired you to open up about the ongoing problem with your foot and the amputation and trying to get the wound to heal. And I just was really moved by how many comments we got from people who were cancer survivors or had endured the medical system in some way. And so, my friend Eddie Tebe is one of the biggest music fans in New Orleans. Known him for years since Katrina. Back then, there was like 50 people in the clubs because there was nobody living here, and there was the same 50 people going to see each other. It's musicians and fans alike. And there was this guy Eddie Tebe who you got to know because he was at every show, and he had a little difficulty walking. He had been born with cerebral palsy, and he was probably late 30s or early 40s by then. And uh, about 3 or 4 years into knowing him, maybe 5 years into knowing him, he was diagnosed with Huntington's disease, which is what killed Woody Guthrie. Huntington's disease is a neurological disease where the brain stops sending signals at first to the extremities, the arms and legs, so you can't walk properly, and then finally you can't walk at all. And then it stops sending signals to the voice, and his face had been contorted anyway, but then the voice has started to not work. And ironically, he was raised in a family where only he had muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy rather, and his three brothers and sisters didn't. So he had been writing stories a lot of his life about what it was like, how his mother raised him not to feel like he was different. She made him do chores. She challenged him to go to regular schools and not look at it as a disability, but look at it as a challenge that was going to provide him with gifts in life. And one of those gifts is a gorgeous outlook. But then as he got diagnosed with Huntington's, his brothers and sisters did too. And they all started to suffer its effects. And as Eddie got more and more affected by it, one of his mother's friends, who's a publisher, reached out and said, if you have the stories that you've been writing for years, I would like to edit them and put them into a book. So we went to a book signing on Saturday at Blue Cypress Books on Oak Street, which is one of my favorite bookstores in town. And this is Eddie's book. It is called, wait,
There you go.
and it's stories about living life in the key of triumph, is what the subtitle is. It's a lovely, beautiful read, sometimes painful. Eddie's a beautiful cat. I got to see John Boutte and Carmela Rapazzo and Mark Carroll. There was so many musicians and fans alike coming out to support Eddie. So I just wanted to mention the book and say, look it up. And a lot of y'all, I think Phil and Joy have met him, and some of the folks from around the country that watches have definitely met him because he has been a fixture at my shows since Katrina 16 years ago.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So I wanted to end with a shout out to Eddie because we are all dealing with things nothing like what he has dealt with.
Right.
It also affects his immune system. So he had to go into a complete lockdown during the pandemic, and all he saw was his care nurse because he can't feed himself and those kinds of things.
Wow.
He's an amazingly beautiful guy. And the song we wrote that maybe we'll play next show, I was hoping we could get it queued up today. Maybe I'll just post it as a link to the show.
No, let me
It's
play it on
called,
Wednesday too. You can post it as a link, but I'll play it Wednesday at the
uh,
end of the show.
he called me and said he wanted to write a song. And he'd never asked. So I showed up and I said, what do you want to write? And he said, I want to write a song called You Gotta Laugh While You're Dying. And I went, man, Eddie, I don't know if I can. I love you. I know what you're going through. I don't know if I can do it. That's heavy. And he just smiled at me, and through his twisted, beautiful, crooked mouth, he said, I know it's heavy, Paul. I got the diagnosis, but I
Right.
want the lyrics and the melody to be light and fun because I want people to know you really can laugh even while you're dying. And he has spent his time dealing with this challenge with joy and makes still as many shows as he can. Can't make six a night anymore, and he
Wow.
can't drive himself to the shows. But a friend will bring him to 2 or 3 shows in a night. Or if he can't find a friend, he'll have an understanding Uber driver that knows he has to be helped into the car and helped
Wow.
into the club. But once he's on a stool, he's okay. He's with the music. So here's to Eddie.
Here's to
And
Eddie.
here's to the people that have to deal with what they have to deal with. And here's to the people that still find laughter among that.
That's right.
All right. See you on Wednesday when we talk to my dear, dear friend, Chris Finney, who has so far surpassed me in the music business that it both humbles me and makes me feel slightly buffoonish.
Oh, come on. He was my protege. What are you kidding? He makes me feel like I'm running backwards. So,
He was my piss boy. I made him go get candy bars. We're stoned, you know.
see, that's why you don't treat anybody bad. You never know what's going to happen on the back
I
end.
treated him like a baby brother. I
Oh,
loved
he
Chris
loved
so.
you. Yeah, he loved you.
I
So,
still do. Actually, he's one of the most special people I ever met, and I'm looking forward to having him on.
he's going to be a lot of fun, you guys. So come and hang out with us on
Musical
Wednesday.
guru and Loyola professor,
And loyal
Chris
professor.
Finney.
Yes. And bass player. You didn't know that.
And Grammy winner.
He
Has
is.
he
Two
won Grammy?
Grammys. Two Grammys.
Multiple Grammy winner, musical guru, and Tulane professor, Loyola professor, whatever he is.
And by the way, he just we got to get him to tell his bass story because the road that he took in college, he started playing bass, and he's got a fun little story about the professor there, and how he sort of changed his while he was there, he sort of changed his
I'll have to
future.
ask him about it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a
Learning
story I
about
hadn't
my
heard
buddy.
before, but I think it's a fun story, and then I think it's a good way for him to sort of lead in, tell us a little bit about himself.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys on Wednesday along with our friend Chris Finney. And thanks for dialing us up and having another cup of coffee with me and Mike
Absolutely.
Mate.
Much love to you, Lorelei. Thank you for being here first. We'll see you on Wednesday, or if you come, hang out. See you then. Music.
All right.
Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind.